right, Sam here with you. What is it? Wednesday the 23rd of August. No, pardon me, the Wednesday the 22nd of August. And so after I did the Bitcoin video, we did a little polling amongst our Twitter followers and put it out to a vote here amongst some of the coins that we'd been getting requests upon. So we did that polling here, and the winner was NANO. Now, NANO, I'm kind of glad to look at. Now, one of the things about NANO here that you might just reference here, I showed you this site the other day. This is coincheckup.com, which I do like. I've been using this quite a bit here. Now, I've got them sorted here based on their algorithmic scoring here. And you can see NANO is number 6 here, right underneath Bitcoin. So it's Ethereum Classic, Monero, NEM, Zcash, Bitcoin, NANO, ahead of Dash, Quantum. It's interesting. So this is, but boy, the chart is ugly, but its potential is worth noting here. So as I showed last time, we looked at this website here. There's some interesting things to look at here. So I'll let you dig around here. This is how they come up with their algo scoring. Oh, and there's plenty of information here. One that I always like is what's the purpose? Or what is the purpose of this coin? What problem does it solve? What value does it add? Oh, some good things to read here so you understand what you're investing in rather than just bars on a chart. So it's something to think about here, and I'll let you dig into some of this, but it's interesting to note that how highly ranked it is per their algorithmic scoring. So let's go over and look at the chart here. Now it's been, here's NANO to Bitcoin on a 4-hour on Binance. So here's where it hits Binance and pretty much straight down since then. So we think we can all agree that's an ugly looking chart. So trying to get a count on it, boy, what do you do with this? I mean, hard to call this as anything other than a 3 wave here. So I'm giving that a WX here, and then I'm labeling it as an ABC to come down here, but it's, boy, I certainly wouldn't be calling it anything other than just some sort of very long correction. Now we're coming down here. We got to be careful about approaching 0. You'll note here's 0 right here. So in terms of any projection that would be having this, would have NANO heading down here, you got to be careful about where you're projecting as here's 0 right here. So not a lot more downside to go, but coming off of this dominant pivot here, which was clearly significant, well, we're going to have some resistance if the bottom is in down here. We don't know. But here's the 50 we're going to have to work through. So a lot of work to be done here to get this to turn around and have a bullish trend underway, but we have the potential for a start on it here. Now, coming off of this pivot up here as we work our way down, I mean, it's pretty tough to get a clean count on it. It's certainly nothing that just screams at you here. Let me go down. Let's go to a 2-hour, see if we can get a better look at it. So off of that pivot here, let me bring it here. All right, so the lack of depth of any of these retracements makes it very, very difficult to get a count on it. But if I come down here, here's the first significant retracement. So I've got us going into a 1-2 here. Well, once I've got my 1-2, then we can start measuring. So I can look for the length of the 1 projected from that. Well, let me pull this over. Projected from the 2. So I know I'm looking for at least 100%. Get my right on it. Right there. Okay, so interestingly, here we come 100% to the tick. So I lean into this as a potential 3rd wave here, and the subdivision is, equally difficult to try and find. But it looks like I can get sort of likely a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we get this oddity here where we've got these spikes. It's a little bit of an educated guess here. My guess is we will go A, B, C into the 4 here and then come down. So I'm looking for 3 waves. This, who knows what's going on there? Market order. You just don't know. Somebody got bent over there. I can promise you that. So if we look at this now coming down, so that's contender here. 3, 4 is the 4 here. That I don't like it because of that wick. You've got structure looks a little bit better here. So 1, 2, A, B, C into my 4, and then coming down looks like I can go 1, 2, and then I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I did check that 3. So if we look at it here from the 2 to the, well, even if you use the lowest pivot here, so you can see here's 3. We're beyond this, the 1618, 175. We come just shy of the 200. So I like this as my 3rd here, a very shallow 4, no question, very shallow 4. But then it looks like I come down here, and whether this is an expanded B wave, it's hard to say. So this is kind of, so that if I'm coming down here looking for 5, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be very hard to get 5 waves out of that 5th, but you know, I'll allow for that as the 5 here. As I don't love it, but there it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C into my 4. So that's a very, very shallow 4. So from the, I think we just make the 23.6. So it qualifies here. This little pivot here gets it to the tick. Possibly that's a front run. You can come down here. It looks like maybe we have a front run on algo target. There is no easy count to get there. So it's really kind of an educated guess, just working through the swing relationships as the retracements have been so shallow. But we can come up with a count that fits and we don't violate any rules. So I've got a contender down here for my 5th. That would be the completion of the C. Well, let's see. I guess I'd have to do it this way. This would be the completion of the 5th of the 5th of the C wave of the Y wave. Let's take that up a degree. So that would be, well, we'll go minuet. That'll work it. Okay, so there's potentially now the Y wave going in. So I've got a contender here for a hard pivot. So let's dig into that. So I'm going to go down to the 30-minute, and we'll take a better look at this. So it's, you know, it's not the cleanest count I've ever seen, but it plays. So off of this pivot low down here, which we're calling our 5th of our C of our Y, I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got a candidate for a 1 wave. Well, it gets a little problematic after that, as this does not look impulsive. So I've got a decent beat on a 1 wave here. I've got good impulsive structure. I think this was technical. So from my 2 to my 3, so we come just shy of the 50 here. We get to and through target, but that's a reasonable contender here for 5 waves into a 1 wave. Well, you know, so potentially now, so if this were 1 and this were 2, so this is technical here. So if I take the length of the 1 wave, well, we come right to the 50. But coming off of that as a 2, we'd certainly want to see something more impulsive. And right now that looks like, well, you might be able to go 1, 2, 1, 2. But the alternate is here that we have just a larger degree. A, B, and C would be going in down here. So maybe we're going to push towards the 618. So that would go, let's go that to, we'll go to blue here and we'll go up a degree. So we go micro here. So that may, because I can't get an impulse out of this. So if this were 1, 2, even still going 1, 2, 1, 2, I don't love it here. So it looks like we could, contender here would be A. So we go A, B, C into an A. Then A, B, C into a B. This is pretty clearly a 3 wave here. So I'm leaning into this as a C of my B. Right, so that's deep. Essentially, we're double topping here. A B wave, always a push to try and get to new highs. They don't make it. It's close, but they don't make it. Looks like we might be heading down here. So not unreasonable hit that we'd have an A, so 1 wave A, B, C, so we'd be looking for this anywhere from the 50s, which would be a double bottom down here, so potentially we'd have the C wave here for a double bottom into our 2. Let's change that color here. Okay, so we'd have 1, A, B, C coming down for a 2. So we might look for any kind of swing relationship here. So if I took the length of the A projected from the B, well, that's interesting. So I've got a little confluence down here. So common target for a C wave would be 100% the length of the A projected from the B. Now, we're not absolutely certain that the B is in, but given the move off of that, I recall this was a unrealized target. So if I take it from here to my A wave, oh no, I guess they did get it. Okay, so here we got an algo target right here. So so we come just shy of the 618 and they get target yet again. So they've gotten it a couple times here. So it looks like we've got this here. So that's potentially now the reason why we're seeing the pivot there. So again, here's the tell. So algo target is met, and then look at the reaction. So they've caught that. Now this 50, right, remains unrealized. So I promise you that's an algo that kicks in here at the 50 with this as the target. So that will stay long there. And if this were to come down here, if we're to come down here and challenge this 50, that will be defended. They'll defend it all the way to the 618. They'll exit on the 65. So if we were to come down here, this is still sitting up here as a target. So that could play as our 2, and then if we were going up here, that wouldn't necessarily be the 3. That could be just the 1 wave of the 3rd wave, because if we start to put the whole thing together, we'd be looking for the 3 much higher. 4 would be over here. So we'd be looking to go 1, A, B, C down for the 2, then looking for that 3 up here closer to, well, if we were going to get a good solid 3 out of it, we'd be looking for it up here closer to the -100, kind of as I've shown you many times. Bit of a shorthand for a wave 3 target, just using our algo poles. So that's a contender here. Wouldn't surprise me that we come back down here and if nothing else, it's a test of the 50. But we've got some room here. We can allow for it down to the 618. Well, really for a 2, you can go deeper than that. I just wouldn't ride it down beyond that. So consider that here. I think this is a reasonable. Now, can we get a good 5 out of that? Do we come down in 5, set up for either at the 50 or the 618 for a 2? But then I do think that if we do that in 5 and we can get more confidence in this as an A, B, C setting up for the 2 wave, then I think that's your real trade here, is to sit and wait and try and get that. That's what looks good. So if it goes 1, 2, then you're in your 3, then you know you've got a new trend started. 3, 4, and 5 still yet to be determined. So this is the next opportunity as I see it. It would be worth waiting for at least a revisit to the 50. See what the reaction looks like there. That will be defended. If it goes a little further, so you might take a, as I'll say, might appetizer size here, you might go a little heavier at the 618. So you end up with a split fill, so you'd be between the 50 and the 618 in terms of your average price. So maybe you're here. So then if we're going to get a real 3, you're going to have great risk reward. You can exit on the other side of the 65. So not a bad setup, but it's just very difficult to know whether or not this is a good pivot to work with. So how do we confirm it given that very ugly chart that we were just looking at? Given all of this action, well, this works as a 3, 4, 5. We've got a pretty solid 1, 2, 3, 4. Gets a little skinny into that 5th, but it's there. Now, granted, now I'm on a 4-hour, but I can get good 5 completing down here. So we don't really confirm until we get a solid push. We break that high. That starts to make this pivot as a technical low look more significant. Then we go up for the 3. Then we can really have confidence that we've got a solid pivot here. So, it's definitely a coin worth watching and keeping an eye on. So the kind of thing I would do, I'd be alarming. So I'd have alerts. So if we were to come back, for example, a revisit to this wave 4, that would be something I'd want to know about. So that's the kind of thing you just wick that off and put an alert on it. So that means we're approaching the 50. I'd want to be alerted to that fact and see what the reaction looks like there. Trying to set up for the potential buy here to try and get into that 3rd. So coming off the 1. So if that were just the 3rd, then likely, likely all of this is going higher, and we'd have just the beginnings of a 1 wave to take us back, ultimately to much higher prices. So we'd just be getting started. It would be the first really completed motive wave if we get it, and we don't know that we get an impulse, but right now it looks like that's a contender. So if we got a clean motive wave here, then this pivot gets solidified, and then we're off in a new trend. But a lot has to happen for us to get to that conclusion. But that's where I see the next opportunity. So I'd be watching for that. That's very, very tradable down here. I actually am already fairly long in Nano. That might be a reasonable place to look to be adding. So I would be paying attention to that as well. All right, guys, so that'll give us a wrap. So kind of short and sweet there. It's pretty much just all ugly until we get a reasonable pivot down here that may be setting up to take us into a new trend. We shall see. All right, guys, with that, I'll call it a day. And we always encourage you to give us a follow over on Twitter for just this very reason, right? So Twitter followers, pick the coin getting reviewed today. And if you're interested in our educational material, of course, you can always give us a visit over on the website. That's tradedevils.com, and there's links and more information underneath this video. All right, guys, see you later.